2 years ago tomorrow, the world watched in horror as Russian forces invaded Ukraine. Hundreds of thousands have died and the reverberations have been felt around the world.
But after a year of stalemate and both sides digging in, many are asking where this goes from here.
Kira Rudik is a Ukrainian MP and joins us now live from Kyiv. Kira, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. 2 years on, what is President Zelensky's game plan here? Where does this go next?
Well, thank you so much for having me here. Our plan did not change since 2 years, since 10 years when Russia first attacked us. We plan to survive. We plan to win the war, regain our sovereignty, and restore the international order according to international laws. It's very simple. We are doing the right thing for our country. We didn't do anything wrong. Russia attacked us aggressively and broke all kinds of international agreements, committed all kinds of the war crimes, and it just needs to be stopped. You have seen Putin's interview, right? You understand that he would not stop and he would not give up unless he is stopped. And this is what we intend to do here, because he will not limit himself with Ukraine. He is going to restore Russian Empire, and that includes many NATO countries, many other independent states. So this is obviously much bigger than us, and our plan remains the same. We are going to fight. That means that we need is to have something in our hands to fight with. And this is what we are asking our Western allies.
I totally understand that. I think many people in Western countries are war weary because obviously there's been a huge amount of money put into this. But I agree with you that Putin needs to be made to stop. There's a big headline this morning in the Daily Telegraph saying, I have the Russian soldiers in my sights, but I have no shells to fire at them. We know the United Kingdom has pledged £2.5 billion more. Also, as we found out, this bilateral defence deal. The EU also has put more money in, something like 50 billion euros. And of course, we're waiting for the United States to match that, or at least to put in 60 billion US dollars. That's held up at the moment. But clearly from that headline, money is crucial and so are arms.
Absolutely. But you see, when we are talking about those amounts, and we are extremely grateful for that, we need to be keeping in mind that all those democratic countries, including the United Kingdom, have more than 500 billion of Russian money that are being frozen right now, and money of Russian oligarchs that are under sanctions, and money of the Russian state. And I think what is absolutely fair and logic thing to do, and G7 already approves that, and Belgium is already doing this, is to use this money for the sake of Ukraine, not to make the UK taxpayers to pay for it, not to make the US taxpayers and European taxpayers to pay for it, but to make sure that Putin is literally paying for what he broke, and that this money are being used for good to help us to win the war. This is what we are pledging as one of the things that need to be done immediately, to make sure that frozen Russian assets are being confiscated and used for the sake of Ukraine.
We just talked about the US money being held up and obviously an election coming up. If Donald Trump becomes president again, what will that mean for Ukraine?
Well, the statements that are being made right now are really dangerous because it's like a search for really simple solutions for the complicated problems. So President Zelensky was very clear. He invited Donald Trump to come to Ukraine and witness himself what is happening and why we need the US support so much, hoping that that would change his mind. Unfortunately, there was no answer. But I think the problem that we are facing is much bigger. It is the security of the Europe and how it would look like if the White House will change in this next elections, and what would happen with NATO and how the military production would be impacted. I think the issue is much bigger than Ukraine here. It is again the fight of the democratic against the authoritarian regime, and every single position matters. And of course, who will be the president of the United States would have a crucial impact on how our mutual future looks like.
Kira, I think it's very difficult for us sitting here in London, in the United Kingdom, to understand the impact of this war. When you look at the numbers, there are nearly 22,000 civilian casualties, 5.1 million people displaced internally, 6.2 million have actually fled Ukraine. What is it like for people living in Ukraine right now?
Well, it's every single evening you are going to bed, not knowing if you're going to wake up in the morning. You have a backpack with everything that you need to flee, and you have all kinds of medical supplies at home because you may need them or your neighbors may need them. It is waking up for the air raid sirens almost every night and spending many days in bomb shelters when the attacks continue over and over. It's knowing that your future is not defined and that your home and everything that you loved and worked for can be destroyed just in a second. David, it happened to me as well months ago when the Russian missile hit near where I live. And it was a most terrifying experience of my life when my windows were taken out of the frames and thrown into the middle of the room, when there was a fire and smoke everywhere, and I got only minor injuries. My neighbors were not that lucky. And it was just constant terror and nothing that you have control of. Like, you can be very brave, you can train to fight, but there is absolutely nothing that you can do as a human being against a huge pile of metal that is coming from the sky to kill you and everything that you loved and worked for. And this is happening every night. Just this night, the drone attack has reached the civilian building in the Dnipro city. And I know how this terror looks like, and it just needs to stop, because you cannot continue living like that. And it can be stopped. We just need enough air defense systems and weapons so we can push them back, so we can stop them where they're trying to go.
Kira Rudik, a Ukrainian MP, leader of the Golosh party, thank you so much. And what a humbling account that was of life now.
Absolutely.
And unimaginable, really.
And I think what it shows is the personal tragedy behind all of this. And it's all very well to talk about money, but at the end of the day, I think Kira painted a really good picture there of people worried whether they would actually survive every single night they go to bed. As we mark the 2-year anniversary tomorrow, really incredible to think when this began, no one would have envisaged just how long this was going to go on, with no end in sight.